Oh boy, YouTube people. Grading is going to 0. It's done. It's over. The bubble has burst. Pack it up, pack it in. Game over. Gemrate data came out earlier this week. Just getting to it now because of all the craziness with people stealing things and rubbing off autos and all the other nonsense going on in the hobby landscape. But we have September Gemrate numbers. Shout out to friend of the channel, Gemrate, for providing us this valuable information. And we have our first decline in a while. Now, we remember August was a record-setting month. Biggest month ever for grading. And now we follow it up with the lowest month of 2024. Still 1.25 million cards graded, which is still an absolute boatload. But it is the first decline that we've seen and a year-over-year decline. Absolutely crazy stuff. Or is it? Is it actually really that crazy? Is this really that big of a deal? Or is just me being hyperbolic? I think this could just be a 1 month outlier. You know, if it drops again next month, that'll be a little concerning. You know, like what does it do through the end of the year? As you know, we've talked about this, talking about card shows. This time of year is busy for people. There is a lot of stuff going on. Also, the release calendar has not been spectacular in regards to grading. You know, we haven't had a tentpole release that would make you shove a bunch of stuff towards grading companies in a while. Now, we've had a lot of like Topps Chrome basketball and Topps composite football and stuff like that. But that's not really, you're not grading a lot of stuff out of there. Unless it's Wemby or LeBron, you're not sending anything in from that product to grade. Unless it's Stroud, you're not sending in anything from Topps composite. And you're probably not sending in base cards. It's not worth it anymore. On top of that, on the baseball side of things, Topps Chrome Baseball came out a while ago. You know, Bowman Chrome just came out, but it's a lackluster class. So you're not having people knock down the doors for that. We haven't had a good Panini basketball or football release in a hot minute. You know, Prism's been out for a while. Selects, Optic, that sort of stuff isn't going to move the needle as much as a Prism is, and some of those products aren't even out yet or just about to come out. So we're kind of in a weird spot in the release schedule, and that does drive a lot of grading. The market for grading, and this is something we've talked about in Gemrate videos and just other videos in general, is weird right now. When PSA 9, my biggest red flag that things were a little off or the potential to head in a wrong direction is when I did a video a couple of months ago talking about PSA 9 selling for less than raw. It might even have been more than a couple of months ago. Might have been earlier this year. That to me just scares me a little bit, because always the case was your nines you would break even. You know, you would get back about the value of the card, and maybe you would make like $5 or $10 on it. Maybe you get an ever so slight premium because it was in a PSA 9 holder or an SGC 9, whatever. Pick whatever 9 you want. And that is just no longer the case anymore. That is flipped. And now you're seeing, and maybe I'll do another video and kind of deep dive some examples. You're seeing a lot of cases where PSA 9s are selling significantly less than raw. And that's scary. To me, that is scary. Because if you're grading to sell, which, let's be honest, a lot of people do, that makes you have to be a lot more choosy. To be a lot more careful about what you send in. Because now, you're not breaking even on those 9s anymore. That's a scary proposition. Let's go ahead and run through some numbers here really quick. PSA down 15% on the month. still doing almost 1.2K. SGC coming in at 150K. CGC right there with them at 145K. They're down 15% too. Once again, most of that's on the TCG side of things. Boy, oh boy, Beckett. I think I say that every single month we do these videos. 46,000. That's a 28% drop month over month. And to me, the scarier number there is a 24% drop year over year. Don't get me wrong, dropping 28% in 1 month is not great, but a 25% drop year over year is real scary. Now, to kind of dig this a level deeper, one thing I noticed is the TCG numbers got hit harder, at least on the, the overall numbers, more so than sports. So sports, PSA was only down about 10%. SGC was down about 12%. Beckett was down 35%. And CGC was down 40%. Obviously, PSA makes up a bulk of the overall grading activity. On the TCG side, they were down 24%. Beckett was down 15%. And CGC was down about 11%. But this 24% alone is a pretty big drop. And that's a 28% drop year over year, which is a little bit scary. When you compare it to the sports card side of things, their year over year is actually up. Their month over month is down. So the sports card section is driving this a little bit, but not as much as the TCG of it all is. And I don't follow the singles market on TCG well enough to be able to sit here and tell you like, oh, it's because of this, that, or the other thing. I have some macro level ideas, and someone can correct me in the comments down below if they live and breathe in the TCG slab world. I know Pokemon specifically had some very popular releases that were getting the hell graded out of it earlier this year and late last year in 151 and a bunch of Sword and Shield era stuff. And the new era, though popular, I don't know if it's as popular on the grading front. And also on the Pikachu side, I don't know if they're seeing the same thing where 9s have basically no value. So you're losing money on 9s, causing you to have to be more picky on what you're submitting. So someone can feel free to fire off in the comments down below that knows the TCG slab side of the world a lot better than I do. But that's kind of my hunch there, because Pokemon products have still been churning out left, right, and center. One Piece stuff has still been coming out. Lorcana stuff has still been coming out. Magic stuff has still been coming out. But that stuff's not graded as much as Pokemon is. This is the TCG category, but a huge percentage of it is Pikachu and Charizards on that report. Now, even the small guys got a bump down a little bit. Arena Club down to 11,000, a little bit of a drop for them. They've been doing 13K and 13K. Tag took a pretty decent hit this month, down to about 16,500 from the 21,000 that they had been sitting at. And as per usual, when their numbers fluctuate one way or the other in big chunks, Pokemon also took a big hit with it. I think it was a 33% drop overall on their numbers, and about 20 to 25% of that was Pokemon. So they dropped a decent amount, and a large chunk of it was the Pikachus. As we've speculated in the past, and judging by the evidence, it seems like a lot of their Pokemon business is being driven by some large group submitters that are using it for repacks or selling on Whatnot or whatever. So as their orders slow down, all of a sudden tag numbers drop way off. If that ever completely dries up, we'll see what the true demand for the average consumer is outside of just the repack market. So that's where those numbers are. But they have also, both those guys also dropped off as well, lining up with what we're seeing from the big players. So like I said, is this just a weird spot in the release cycle with stuff? Is this the time of year as people are getting back to school and sports and football and getting ready for the holidays? We just had a major hurricane hit the country. That's probably not reflected in these numbers that much. There's just a lot of stuff going on in the world at home. It's election season. I'm sure that's probably playing a little bit of part of it as well. we'll have to see what happens. Is this a 1 month blip, or is this the beginning of the slowdown that a lot of people have been predicting for years? It's just we haven't seen it yet. To this point, grading has been undefeated. This will be an interesting little canary in the coal mine, I guess, for the sports card hobby overall. What happens if grading starts to slow down a little bit? Curious for your thoughts and comments down below. Catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.